I have, first of all, he is the former governor of New Mexico, Libertarian candidate for president. That would be Governor Gary Johnson. Welcome.
Thanks, Care.
Hey, that part of it has worked out so far. I love it when a plan comes together. And also with us, he is the publisher of TheRealRedBaron.com, co-founder of GoProud. That would be Chris Barron. Chris, are you there?
I am here.
Boy, as Hannibal used to say on the A-Team, I love it when a plan comes together.
Technology is great when it works out.
Well, let's start our interview with Governor Gary Johnson. We try to have you on here once a month. Last time we spoke, you were starting this journey to be the Libertarian candidate for president. I know you were just here in Indiana, won that endorsement. Tell us how things are going.
Well, I think they're going really well. The convention is in another month, and I sure hope to be the nominee, but taking nothing for granted. And as we've talked about before, significance to being the nominee would be the fact that the Libertarian nominee will be on the ballot in all 50 states.
Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, Governor Johnson, this is Chris Barron. I want to tell you I was actually up in Maine this weekend speaking at the Maine LP convention where, not surprisingly, you were the unanimous pick of the Maine LP convention, so congratulations on that. I saw your appearance on Colbert Report last night, and I wanted to ask you the reaction you're getting from young people. There seems to be a lot of enthusiasm out there for Ron Paul's candidacy, and I know the young people that I talk to seem very open and excited about the possibility of voting for somebody like yourself who is coming from outside of the Washington political process.
Chris, I have found that to be the case. Last night after appearing on Colbert, I was at a restaurant and I was approached by a young man who was going to college there in New York and said basically the same thing, that they're very aware of everything that's going on, and everybody's rooting for Dr. Paul, but he was concurrent. He just didn't think that it was going to end up being successful, and so where does the movement go from there?
And obviously, as a Libertarian candidate for president, if you get that nomination, do you plan on picking up Dr. Paul's torch and running with it, or do you maybe kind of see yourself being Gary Johnson and carrying that torch? Tell us what kind of candidate you would be and how you would, woo the Ron Paul supporters.
Well, I think at the base of Ron Paul support are a whole bunch of people that have hearts and minds and don't need to be told what to do. And, of course, at the core of libertarianism is none of us like to be told what to do. So without doing that, where does this movement go? Where does this message go when Dr. Paul comes to an end? And I don't think there's an alternative that exists.
Go ahead, Chris.
Governor Johnson, I wanted to ask you, there's been a lot of talk about tax reform. And I happen to be a really, really big fan of the fair tax that you support. And I think it's telling that Obama and Romney have tax plans that fiddle with the current system. I was wondering if you could talk to us about your plan and about how it fundamentally, instead of just fiddling with a broken system, fundamentally, changes that system.
Well, I do. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I promise to advocate on the part of throwing out the entire federal tax system and replacing it with a fair tax. I think that it really reboots the American economy, does away with income tax, corporate tax, tax withholdings, ends up being cost neutral over a very short amount of time, It's really the answer when it comes to American exports, making them 23% more competitive. So it's really the answer when it comes to China, and it's really the answer when it comes to jobs, because in a zero corporate tax rate environment, if the private sector doesn't create tens of millions of jobs, I don't know under what scenario the private sector does create tens of millions of jobs.
If you're just joining us here on the Gary Snyder Show, we're speaking with Libertarian candidate for president and former governor of New Mexico, Gary Johnson, and publisher of the Real Red Barron and co-founder of GoProud, Chris Barron. Governor Johnson, let me ask you this, because first of all, I want to thank Stephen Colbert for warming you up for us today. And secondly, when you take a look at the Republicans and Mitt Romney and the Democrats and Barack Obama, some will say there's not a whole lot of difference, a lot of flip-flopping, a lot of liberal policies, a lot of very, socially extreme right social policies. As a Libertarian candidate for president, your motto is live free. How does that apply to running for president, and compare and contrast that to what would be your opponents in the fall if it turns out to be Romney and President Obama?
I just guarantee that if either Romney or Obama is elected, I guarantee government will be bigger, it'll be more intrusive, it'll be telling you and I more things that we have to do in our lives, and I'm going to suggest that those things aren't going to make any difference. They're not going to make our quality of life any better whatsoever. It's just going to amount to more time and money that we're going to have to spend to comply with government. And the notion that most of us in this country are fiscally conservative, most of us in this country are socially tolerant, I don't think our views either get represented by either the Democrats or the Republicans. I think the Democrats, for the most part, have been pretty good about civil liberties, but that hasn't been of late. And I think for the most part, Republicans have been pretty good when it comes to the checkbook, but that hasn't been of late either. So how about take the best from both and get it with the Libertarians?
Go ahead, Chris.
Governor Johnson, I just want to say, as a gay man who is legally married to my partner in Washington, D.C., I wanted to thank you for having the political and moral courage to stand up in favor of marriage equality, something that President Obama, who has claimed to be a quote-unquote fierce advocate and who has no problem taking millions and millions of dollars from gay donors, has refused to do. I just wanted to ask you, what when you made that decision to stand up for marriage equality, what kind of motivated that for you?
Well, I really think that it is a constitutionally guaranteed right, and that fundamentally that's what this country does represent. It represents liberty and freedom. It represents a personal responsibility that goes along with that. And I just have to tell you that all the gays that I know, they're all terrific people who would make terrific parents if that's what they so chose. Point being, all of us should be entitled to the notion of life, liberty, and happiness, and government shouldn't stand in the way of that.
You know, I've often said that Newt Gingrich has done more to destroy the sanctity of marriage than someone like Chris and his partner ever have.
Yeah, last I checked, I'm not responsible for the destruction of any marriages. Newt can't say the same thing.
Let me ask you this. Ron Paul, he's trailing way behind in the Republican primary. I've seen a couple of blogs write about a possibility of a third-party candidate run for Dr. Paul. What advice would you give him on that? And if you would, And have you heard any of the rumblings or had an opportunity to speak to Dr. Paul about that?
Well, I'm going to take him at his word that he's not going to do that. And I think that he should hang in the Republican primary. He's said that he would do that. I think he's made a huge difference, and that he needs to follow that through till the end. That's what he says he's going to do. I'm just going to take him at his word that he will do that.
Go on, Chris.
Governor Johnson, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your approach to immigration. I think one of the things, I have a lot of friends of mine in the Latino community who had a lot of hope for President Obama when he came into office, and much the same way that he has disappointed a lot of gay people with a lot of talk and no action. I've seen that a lot with folks in the Latino community. And obviously, Governor Romney's approach to immigration is one that is certainly turns off the Latino community. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your approach to immigration.
Well, I think immigration, first off, is a really good thing. I think we should make it as easy as possible for somebody that wants to come into this country and work to get a work visa, not a green card, not citizenship, but a work visa, that a background check would apply and Social Security card would also get issued so that applicable taxes would get paid. Now, if we implement the fair tax, taxes will not be an issue at all, because whether you're illegal, legal, visitor, or U.S. citizen, you will pay the fair tax. It will be unavoidable. And then lastly, let's not build a fence. That would be an incredible waste of money. And to address border violence, legalizing marijuana might just dry up about 75% of that border violence, that being the estimate of the drug cartel's activities that are engaged in the marijuana trade.
You know, going forward with your campaign, obviously there's a tough hill to climb, taking on establishment Democrats, establishment Republicans, and if you do receive the Libertarian nomination, you know, how do you go about getting your message out against basically two political machines that don't want you to get your message out?
Well, Gary, the pie-in-the-sky scenario is polling at 15% against Obama and Romney and being on the national debate stage with the two of them for the general election. That would present that anything is possible. Right now I'm polling at 7% against Obama and Romney. I don't know if it's so much my name as just any third name, but it is my name that's being presented right now. When Dr. Paul comes to an end, what happens with that support? I think there is the possibility, the real possibility, of getting to 15%. And like I say, anything is possible at that point.
Go on, Chris.
Governor Johnson, I as a supporter of yours, I'm constantly hearing from folks who are saying that voting for a third party is quote wasting your vote. And I had a couple interactions yesterday with folks where I said to them that I thought the only wasted vote was a vote for a candidate that you didn't believe in and didn't actually want to be president. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about this whole idea, combating this idea, voting for a third party, somehow wasting your vote, that you're forced to vote for one of the two major parties.
Well, Chris, I think you hit it on the head. I mean, where's the wasted vote? You vote for either one of the two old parties. You vote for either one of the two representatives of the two old parties, and what are you going to get? I guarantee you're going to get bigger government, you're going to get more intrusive government, we're going to find ourselves enjoying fewer civil liberties than more civil liberties. So which is throwing away your vote? Right.
All right. With the polls expected to be tight and in a lot of swing states, a third-party candidacy like yours as a Libertarian candidate could actually, sway a swing state one way or another. hopefully in your favor at some point. But how do you? I guess this kind of goes back to the last question. How do you respond to that?
Well, just that I think my candidacy would draw from both sides. I don't see a lot of Romney supporters that are for marriage equality, getting out of the wars in the Middle East. Those that would want to smoke marijuana. I don't see a lot of that Romney support to begin with. Look at Obama and those individuals supporting Obama on those civil liberties. Gosh, he hadn't been too good about those either. And then when it comes to the checkbook, balancing the checkbook, I'm presenting myself here. I'm shamelessly pitching myself as the guy who can best balance revenues with expenditures, and I do promise to submit a balanced budget to Congress in the year 2013. That's not promising to balance the budget. That's promising to submit a balanced budget, which is a $1.4 trillion reduction to federal spending, believing that if we don't do that, we're going to find ourselves with a country that's collapsed. We're going to find ourselves in the midst of a monetary collapse where our dollars aren't going to be worth anything.
All right, Chris, go ahead and ask the last question for us.
The last question here, I'll just warn you, Governor Johnson, I come on every week and I talk to Gary, and one of the things we talk about is sports, and I'm a huge Pittsburgh Penguins fan. So every one of my segments involves me talking about the Penguins at some point, so I can't miss an opportunity to talk about hockey. And I know that you're an avid outdoorsman. So my question to you would be, are you a fan of hockey?
That is the one sport that I probably really don't follow. I just have to fess up to it. Although I did grow up ice skating in the Dakotas, for what that's worth.
And I could say last time I spoke with you, you were actually just came in off the ski slopes.
That's right. And we've just got, the ski season ends this Sunday, and in New Mexico, for what it's worth, it snowed a couple feet here yesterday.
Well, hey, I want to thank you for joining us. Real quick, go Caps, number one. Number two, tell people where they can find your website, all that good stuff. And then, Chris, you can follow when he's done.
Well, GaryJohnson2012.com. I would love for those listening to get online and check it out. GaryJohnson2012.com.
And folks who want to check out my work, of course, can go to the realredbaron.com. And I would simply second what the governor said there. And if people don't go to my website, go to Governor Johnson's website and donate and volunteer to help. You can actually make a difference in this election by supporting Governor Johnson.
Hey, both of you, thanks a lot. I'll have this interview up on the website later for the masses to listen to. And you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow, Chris.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you both.
There you go, Governor Gary Johnson and Chris Barron. All right, you're listening to The Gary Snyder Show.